Ever since my husband died, I have been a very lonely woman. I, 55F, have one son, 27M, and two grandchildren, 10M, 2F, with a third and fourth due in 6 months. His first child is from his ex-girlfriend, 25F, while his second child and soon-to-be twins are from his current wife, 27F. My son is a very bright but naive boy. He was head over heels in love with his ex, and when he got accepted into his dream university, she dropped out of school to follow him and start their perfect family. Their relationship didn't survive the following year. Despite all the stress and workload of college, my son still paid child support and visited his child. They both moved on to different relationships. My son married a beautiful, kind girl he met in college. His ex started dating another man and had 3 more kids, 7F, 4F, 2M, with him. Earlier this month, his ex came to him in need of somewhere to live. To put it briefly, her new partner was an awful person. She was 7 months pregnant, had 4 kids, no money, job, or education. His ex has a mental illness that has caused her a hard time keeping a job, and they had been living at a homeless shelter for the past week. My son and daughter-in-law were kind enough to let them temporarily stay at their home rent-free until she found somewhere else. My daughter-in-law's parents work in real estate and were renting out one of their properties, a 2-bedroom house, to them for a reduced cost. My son and his wife had been having financial troubles ever since their daughter was born premature, and with the twins on the way, I thought they would be in need of a larger home. In the 1990s, I inherited a spacious house from my grandparents, which has 7 bedrooms, and 3 extra rooms that have been turned into an office, library, and art studio. As an otherwise regular middle-class couple, my husband and I were incredibly thankful for their generosity. It's so large that it can technically be considered a mansion. And I've been living in it all alone after my husband's death. I discussed it with my son and daughter-in-law, and we agreed it would be best if they moved in. After all, this house is way too big for one woman. However, my son's ex and her kids would not be allowed to join them. My grandson would be allowed to stay if he has no other place to go, but the rest of the family have nothing to do with me. Don't get me wrong, I have empathy for her situation, but at the end of the day, they're not my family, and I worry about potential tensions that could arise. Pregnancy is stressful enough, and it wouldn't be fair for my daughter-in-law to share her husband with his ex. I refuse to let my beautiful home become a breeding ground for dysfunction. I talked this over with the parents of my daughter-in-law, and they decided to give the ex 1 month to find somewhere else to stay while my son prepares to move in. The ex is absolutely livid with me for trying to tear apart her family. I explained to her that it was my house, my rules. Comment 1. NTA. I would tell the girl that she can give you your grandchild if she needs, and if she refuses I would then tell your son to get the state involved if she can't take care of your grandchild's financial needs if the kid is in danger. 100% this is going to be a nightmare if she is mentally unstable and in this state financially. I promise you people like this are not seeking a peaceful life, doing the daily grind. It's possible she's the noble victim, but I wouldn't put money on it. Comment 2. I agree. She has 4 kids and another on the way. Son getting full custody would be best for the child versus being homeless with 4 siblings and mentally ill mother with no means to properly care for them. Comment 3. A 7-bedroom house is big, but not that big for 4 adults and 8 children. Your son seems to be on good terms with his ex, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea to live with her. Is there any assistance with housing/food stamps/medical care in your area you can help her apply for? She is your grandson's mother nevertheless. There are other ways of helping than letting her move in. NTA. My parents have 4 kids. I'm 16M, the oldest, and next is my brother Harry, 13M, then my sister Jazz, 11F, and then my youngest sister is Amy, 8F. Harry and Jazz have autism. Neither can talk clearly, but mumbling is the best they have learned, and they were delayed developmentally, so walking came later for them as well. Harry and Jazz are in a special needs school, a private one, because my parents wanted the best chance for them and this place was highly recommended. Both my parents work longer hours for this. And because of the longer hours they work and the aftercare they're paying for Harry and Jazz, it has meant I needed to take on some more responsibility, and especially with Amy. I take care of her every day after school until our parents come home. That includes cooking and deep cleaning the kitchen after I finish making food for us so my parents can cook for Jazz and Harry and not risk any issues with the food, because both have highly sensitive taste buds and they have limited diets. When Harry and Jazz go for respite or all-day therapies, my parents make time for Amy and just Amy. They don't want her to feel left behind or like she doesn't matter. I do not get the same attention. I never did, even when I was younger and things were bad. Amy was always the kid they prioritized time with when they had it. And I had expectations put on me that I would do my best to give her a great childhood. They put a lot of that responsibility for that on my shoulders by the time I was just 11. I'm also more responsible for keeping the house clean, because of my parents' working hours. Sometimes I'm the only one who cleans in a week, and I used to try and get Amy to help out with some light stuff, and my parents told me to let her enjoy her childhood. Recently my uncle and aunt died, and my cousin, who also has autism, ended up in foster care. My parents wanted to take him, but that they told me they would need me to step up and do more for us to make it work. They even told me how bad my cousin has it in foster care right now. Dad told me he has not found stability since his parents died several weeks ago. So what do they want? Me to take over all the cooking, for me to do the grocery shopping, but not with Amy of course, and they want me to start adjusting to having 3 kids, 2 with special needs, at times. So they can take 1 kid at a time to their therapies and appointments. It pissed me off because they also asked me to babysit all 3 special needs kids so they can make a bit more time for Amy, because it will be hardest on her. I was pissed off, so I said sure, I'll do it, but only until I'm 18 and then I'll be done and they will never see me again. My parents told me my anger was unwarranted and everyone has to make sacrifices when a family is dealing with this many special needs kids. Comment 1, NTA. I am sympathetic to your parents to an extent as they're in a tough position. Foster care can be a very difficult situation for children with different care needs. But the amount they are trying to put on you isn't reasonable. You're not an adult and shouldn't be expected to completely lose the last years of your adolescence. Comment 2. Yes, I feel really bad for my cousin too because his needs are a lot different to my siblings, but it's still incredibly difficult for him, and I know in the wrong foster homes he won't be treated well. I agree. But the issue is they no longer see me as a kid. I'm not sure if they have for a very long time. I feel like when I started kindergarten they saw me as an 18-year-old college student who didn't really need parents and from that, could take on the world. Comment 3. NTA. But you better have an actual working plan how to get out at 18 or you're doomed until you figure it out. Neither your current days nor the ones your parents are planning for you leave you with the time to earn money for independence. You have no responsibility for their choices, but that won't matter if you can't get out. Edited to add, and your parents better develop a plan as well. I, 27F, have a friend, let's call her Emily, 29F, who has always been confident about her relationship choices. Emily had been dating Jake, 35M, a fitness enthusiast and personal trainer, for the past 3 years. She often boasted about how Jake's dedication to health and fitness rubbed off on her, and how they were the perfect fit for each other. When Emily and Jake got together, there were murmurs among our friend group about Jake's commitment issues and his penchant for dating younger women. But Emily brushed off these concerns, convinced that her love for him was enough to keep him by her side. Jake had a history of dating women much younger than him, and Emily knew about it. However, she believed Jake when he assured her that he had outgrown that phase of his life and was ready to settle down with someone more mature. Despite the warnings and doubts from her friends, Emily remained steadfast in her belief that Jake was different with her. She proudly posted pictures of their gym sessions together and their healthy meals, convinced that they were building a strong foundation for their future. However, Things took a turn when Emily discovered that Jake had been seeing a 22-year-old fitness trainer behind her back. It turned out that Jake had grown tired of Emily's occasional indulgences and wanted someone who shared his intense dedication to fitness. Heartbroken and betrayed, Emily came to me for support, devastated by Jake's betrayal and feeling blindsided by his actions. Frustrated by her insistence on ignoring the warning signs and her belief that she was the exception to Jake's dating pattern, I couldn't help but blurt out, "What did you expect?" I reminded her of all the doubts she had pushed aside, all the times she had boasted about being Jake's ideal partner despite the glaring signs suggesting otherwise. I didn't mean to be harsh, but after years of listening to her disregard any criticism of their relationship, I couldn't muster up sympathy. Emily was shocked by my words, accusing me of being unsupportive and implying that I was blaming her for Jake's actions. She stormed off in anger, leaving me wondering if I had crossed a line. Comment 1. What a silly question. Yes, YTA. Yes, you were technically correct, and yes, you can feel annoyed, being the Cassandra Socks. If she's actually your friend though, comforting her in the moment should be more important than asserting dominance. Comment 2. Everyone who says YTA, they have no freaking idea how draining it is to try to inform, encourage, sympathize, listening and helping all the time, that friend who never listens on your advices and your concerns for years. NTA. She needs to get down from her pink cloud and listen sometimes her friends. What did she accept you to do? You're her truly friend who tried all those years to make her understand and you had enough. Comment 3. If this was my friend, I'd be comforting her first and foremost. Yes, I would give her those hard truths as well, but your timing was awful. You're right, but she was raw and hurt. On the flip side, I would understand not wanting to be friends with someone like Emily. It's okay to not want to witness someone's self-destruct and ignore your concerns. Just pick your battles, really. Maybe it's best the friendship ends if it's severe enough to where you felt no sympathy for her. My aunt died 2 weeks before I got pregnant. When I announced the expectations were on me to name my daughter Elizabeth, after my aunt, if she were a daughter. My aunt had Down syndrome and was so beloved and special to our family. I adored her too. But I never wanted to name my daughter Elizabeth. I had my own reasons from not liking the name Elizabeth, and my husband feels the same, to us wanting to give our child their own name that is not a family name. I told my family during my pregnancy that if my baby was a girl, she would not be named Elizabeth, and I refused to communicate about it afterward. My daughter was born 3 weeks ago and my family were furious when we announced her name and it wasn't Elizabeth. They believed I would change my mind between when I told them and the birth. Mostly due to the fact I was aware they didn't approve. They came over on Saturday and told me I was wrong and asked how Elizabeth would feel if she knew I hadn't wanted to name my daughter after her. They told me it was an unkind thing to do and that my daughter would have been blessed to be named after her special great-aunt. I told them talking like that is one of the reasons I wouldn't want that. I said my daughter deserves her own name and not one where she will always be told she should feel blessed or grateful to be named after my aunt. They told me I was being ridiculous and I was making excuses. I told them they were right and I didn't need to make any to them because it was none of their business. They wouldn't let up, so I told them to go and not to reach out unless they can accept my daughter is not Elizabeth. My family told me arguing with them was not the way to conduct myself. They argued first, but I did argue back. So, comment 1, NTA. These things always befuddle me. You don't owe them excuses and your reasoning is perfectly valid. This is your daughter, let her grow up without the shadow of Elizabeth looming on her. If they don't reach out, tell them it's on them. They are choosing to cut you out, not vice versa. Stand your ground, OP. Comment 2. I wouldn't want them around the baby if this is their attitude. What if they repeat things like she should be honoring Elizabeth, she needs to remember Elizabeth, she's not her own person, but should be their Elizabeth memory during all her life? Maybe if they get therapy or grief counseling and their behavior change, but honestly I doubt it. NTA, but please don't make your kid be close to that toxic behavior, she deserves better. I, 25F, thought I was close to my family when I was growing up. I left for college at 18, and even though I've made a lot of visits to my hometown, I really don't wish to live there. I'll give you a bit of context before asking if I am the R. I have a younger brother, 22M, Jason, who is on the spectrum. I love him very much. Jason has a lot of challenges. He cannot speak, has developmental issues and several neurocognitive problems, as well as general health problems. Understandably, taking care of Jason was a pretty difficult task for my parents and I when I lived with them. It all fell upon my parents' shoulders when I left home. So much so that I barely could make meaningful phone calls and conversations with my parents. Whenever I went back home, my parents barely even noticed me. They spent their whole day trying to take care of Jason, and didn't honestly care about what I was saying or the fact that I had made a long trip back home just to see them in person. I eventually realized I had always been the second-class citizen in our household this whole time. So these trips became less frequent over time. This year, I decided to spend Christmas with my girlfriend's, Lauren 28F, family. She is my first, and hopefully only, serious girlfriend. The first person I fell in love with. My parents haven't met her in person and know almost nothing about her other than her name. I don't think they care. We've been dating for the past year. My mother got very upset when she found out I won't be home for Christmas. Mom called yesterday and invited me over for a visit at home. She hadn't called me all this time. I was the one who gave her a phone call like once every other week. I said I would not like to do that. When she asked me why, I said because my being there wouldn't even be noticed because all of their attention would be on Jason anyway. My mother started crying and saying she was doing the best she could all this time. I felt petty bad for making her cry. Comment 1. NTA, I'm sure she struggled and so has your father. It doesn't change your lived experience. It's not wrong to want to stay away when you know how bad you feel being there. I hope they've thought about who will be caring for your brother when they no longer can. I hope they don't expect you to become his caretaker. Comment 2. Nah. Your mom and dad are not at fault, they are in a heartbreaking situation, and have made choices in terms of their priorities based on that situation. You are not at fault either, their choices came at your expense and you have a right to withdraw from them based on that. Do not blame yourself. Comment 3. NTA, all children deserve attention from their parents, even the ones who do not have severe problems. You have the right to your feelings. The situation must be hard on your parents, but still, sometimes it has to be about you. Not all the time, but sometimes. I had a similar situation in my life at one point. It was always about my mom and her depression. Regardless of what we, the kids, went through. My brother and I very close and can talk about it thankfully.